Good morning, urban farmers. Good morning, urban growers. It's Letitia here with Barefoot Gardening. I hope that you're doing well. And for those of you who are just joining me for the first time watching the channel, welcome. Barefoot Gardening is a community YouTube channel, and I also have a Facebook page, so look it up if you would like to join. My business is called Barefoot and Grow, my urban farm and nursery. And so thank you all so much for joining me today. I just want to say out loud and proud that urban farming is a real thing. It's an actual thing. People are doing it all over the world, all over the United States, and just some of you may not have ever heard about it before, and that's okay. So I'm here to just share a little bit about what it is to me, how it works, how it can work. Although all gardens and farms look different, the biggest difference comparing urban farming to rural farming is that urban farming is in a city. And so you may not see urban farming on large scales, like 100-acre plots, even 50-acre plots. You may not even see that. But more so, quarter of an acre, half an acre, maybe 5 acres. But urban farming is usually typically on such a large scale in people's backyards, their side yards, their front yards, because land access in an urban setting is very limited. But the practice, the method of urban farming and growing can happen pretty much anywhere, and you can do it pretty much any way you want to do it, where you want to do it, as long as you are willing to get dirty and work in the soil. So that's what I'm doing here. I am an urban farmer, urban grower, urban gardener, and I've been doing it for about 7 years now, but went live with my business during the pandemic, or launched the business during the pandemic of 2020. And so I'm excited to just go forth and do what I can to contribute to the food system in our city and in my neighborhood. And so behind me though, I'm about to show you a few things real quick, as I am in the garden for the first time cleaning up, probably in 3 weeks. And part of that is because I'm the only farmer on my property, and so I rely on me and some help from my local urban ag community, from my some friends that I've made in the community, but mostly the work here is done by me. This past year, I had an incredible experience growing and giving birth to my second child. And so a lot of the work that has been done on the front end of my farm and growing for this season has been done by volunteers. And so I definitely always give my volunteers, the community, a huge, big virtual hug, big air hug, because I'm so grateful that there were tons of volunteers that came out and helped me during that time when I was growing a baby and going through some medical things there. And but the game didn't stop. The plan didn't stop, and it was only because of them I moved a little bit faster than I would have if I was doing this by myself. So I'm excited. And that's typical of urban farming as well. Urban farmers don't really hire many employees. You will hear a lot about a lot of one-man, one-woman operations, maybe two, a husband and wife, or partners in a co-op. Co-ops are huge in urban farming as well. Something that I definitely want to dab my toe in here soon. And I will do another video or maybe another live talking about how to start co-ops or farming co-ops in your community. So So we'll see what happens there. But it's just urban farming is farming, working the soil in an urban setting or in the city. And so it seems very taboo to most, but it's really not a hard concept to grasp. But you know, the goal here is to address some issues typically that is happening in our urban communities, by way of these concepts you always hear about lately that have become really, really sexy, and trending, I guess, in social media. And because the world doesn't want to talk about, but we're kind of talking about it, you know, climate change, urban food insecurity, food insecurity, period, all over the country. It's a global issue as well. Sustainability is one of those hot topics now as well. And then when we talk about land access, land grabbing, all these things, right? Vacant lots, how there's like so many vacant lots in our cities now. And they're most of the time not being kept up really well by the city, because there's so many. Maybe they're understaffed, I don't know, there could be tons of reasons for that. But the push, the movement of urban farming has become more now than ever, I do believe, in my lifetime, of hearing about urban farming and understanding the concept and then being a part of that myself. So it's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible. And so some things I've done to kind of get my toe wet in market gardening and urban farming in the community is starting at my house. So I am on less than 1/4 of an acre here, and I'm gonna do a little swingsy so y'all can see kind of a little bit of my and I know it looks like an overgrown mess because it is. This is September, and I'm gonna go this way. The sun might get us a little bit, but I promise you there are crops still in there. But it's September, so the end of September. We're about to hit October very soon. And so crops are starting to die off. You know, our summer crops, like I have mostly tomatoes and peppers here. I had some beans growing, a few different varieties of that, a few different varieties of cucumber, and flowers and things like that. But everything's kind of winding down. Last night it was in the low 50s, and our crops tend to like the cooler weather as well, but once it gets below 55-ish or so for the summer crops, you can start to see a lot of die-off happening, you know, where you get some of the browning of the leaves, and the plants start to kind of die off compared to some of the greenery there. And but that's cool. Back to urban farming. So I've started here on my property, and I'm farming as much of it as I can. I have room to expand. In fact, I did expand this year. So if you haven't been following me for a while, please go back a few months and see how that expansion project happened, and how big it's gotten. I started in my backyard, which is literally that big. I'm on a corner lot in my neighborhood, highly residential area. So I started in the backyard, kind of trying to hide my garden, and then I said, what the heck, I've got to do more for the cause, do more for my family. And so I expanded to the front side yard, and so I have plenty of space over there to start growing. You see all that grass that we can't eat? So I'm excited to come up with more plans to expand the garden on the other side of the property next year. So one of the things that urban farmers deal with is, you know, again, lack of space maybe, or farming in small spaces. And that's not really a bad thing. It's just that's the way it is. In urban settings, we're literally, you know, usually on plots that are so small, and our houses are so close together, right? So the backyard is a great place to start if you want to be an urban farmer. Your front yards. And then community gardens. So there are areas around the city here that have bigger plots, and so people, you know, landowners rent those out to community gardeners, And so we have an influx of community gardens over the past few years, and that's been great. So people that don't have a lot of space on their property can go to these plots, maybe lease it or rent it out for the year, pay like a small fee, and then garden and or farm. One of the biggest issues right now with urban farmers in my area is that farmers who have been farming on a piece of property that they do not own for several years are now being asked to leave because the landowner wants to sell the property. So that's kind of one of the drawbacks, I guess, of farming, or something to expect, that if you don't own the property and you're leasing it, you could I mean there are a lot of people that try to use other people's backyards, but if that family, you know, leaves the home or whatever, you know, you have to give up that space most of the time if you can't work something out with the next owner. But there's just a lot of development in our area, and development is not bad. I'm not here to say that. I'm just saying these are some of the things that we have to deal with as urban farmers. And so and most of the time we can't compete with that. I mean, it takes resources to compete with developers purchasing property. And so if you don't have those resources, that's a huge, you know, way of, you know, not being able to move forward because you don't have the resources to do so. And I have definitely experienced that. But there are other farmers in the area that are experiencing it as well. And so, you know, that's just one of the things we have to deal with. Look at all of these tomatoes, y'all. I have tons of tomatoes. I gotta get out here. I am out here, but after this video, I have some serious picking to do. I have one harvest basket ready to go, and then I have a yard waste basket that I'm collecting. I'm starting to cut back or top all of my tomato plants because, as you all can see, they've all, like, I mean, really overgrown. And so I need to clear walkways and paths here. So I'm just going to cut them back. I'm not going to be one of those that just tries to save all the plant I can when I have tons of them anyway. And clearly, like, tons of tomatoes that I can just see right now. I mean, if you just look at this in here. If you just look in here really close, y'all can see all those tomatoes back in there. Green. You might not be able to see the green ones very well, but definitely a lot of green ones. This whole cattle panel trellis right here, you can't even tell it's a cattle panel, can you? But it is, I promise. It's covered in green tomatoes. Get all these down here on the ground that I didn't stake up. They're all in there, and I know that looks like a hot mess, because it is. One of the things that I have not dealt with a whole lot, and I'm very grateful, is complaints from the neighbor because of maybe the way my space looks. And part of that is that I talk to most of my neighbors around here, and they know what I'm doing. And more so than not, they're very grateful that they can just come over and ask for, or some neighbors I've given permission to go ahead and take what they need, but they can come and get some fresh produce, fresh tomatoes and peppers and beans, and I'm growing some greens now and some onions and things like that, some flowers they can pick, some herbs, and so they're very grateful for that. So I'm in a good spot where I haven't had any complaints about my garden. And even when I'm cleaning up and getting ready for the spring, sometimes, and I do a lot of that now in the fall, sometimes I get these big old piles of wood chips and compost, and they sit for a while, or it takes a while to disperse where I need to disperse. And so far, my neighbors have been very great about not complaining, or filing a complaint with the city, or coming to me and complaining about it. So I haven't had any problems, but that could be something that you run into as an urban farmer. But food access is one of those things. There are a lot of communities that are food deserts now, or are they are victims to food apartheid, and that's something that we experience a lot here in our city. And so urban farmers, urban gardeners, urban growers are, you know, trying to come together and create pathways for that. You know, how do we resolve that issue? And it's going to take a lot more than just gardening, growing a few vegetables and fruits. And I'm not minimizing that, but policy change, behavior change, right, has to happen as well. But this is a great place to start. It's a great place to start. And urban farming, to address those issues, and that's what I'm hoping to do. Starting community gardens, starting coalitions in your community related to urban farming and growing are also great things to do. Just a support system, so you don't feel like you're out there by yourself, because you're probably not anyway. But you might be the only one in your area. My front yard is the only front yard on my block that looks like mine. And I'm proud of that, but also I really, really want to inspire other people to do the same thing. So I have a few neighbors that have come to my nursery and purchased plants and things like that for their gardens. They garden in their backyard, which is perfect because maybe their front yards are really small. I just want more people growing food and having some control over their access to food. And so, you know, I don't grow crops like corn or soybean or anything like that here, which are crops that you typically see in a rural setting. But you know, if I wanted to do that, there are other farmers in the urban setting that do grow those crops. So I may just go to them and support their farms, and then make that food accessible, or send them to those farmers and make that food accessible to people that want it, right? But so here I choose to, because this is my first year market gardening for the farmers market and selling, just being more intentional about selling the produce to my neighbors and family and friends. Gosh, these mosquitoes are still out, y'all. I think everybody deals with mosquitoes regardless of where you are. But being more intentional about market gardening this year has opened my eyes to a lot of other things as well. And so in my community, there's no farmers market that's really close to our community. So I partner with my partner in crime, you know who you are, to start not our first farmers market. I don't want to say that, because there has been a farmers market in the past, but I do believe this has been our biggest farmers market and most successful this year. And that's not because of me. That's because of teamwork and collaboration with the city and where I live, the city council where I live, and just we're all working together to make this thing happen. So I'm excited. And then of course we got vendors and the folks that want to contribute to the market, also showing up and being consistent and being good vendors. And by good vendor I mean like just showing up, and if they don't show up, they let us know what's going on. But we're building relationships. That's what's important. And so it's important to me. And I'm really trying to do that, you know, in the urban setting as well. So urban farming is a thing. It is happening all over the country, all over the world. I just want more of it here. I crave it. I crave to see my neighbors grow and my friends grow, and to hear that they're growing or starting a little herb gardening in their home right on the windowsill. That just sparks complete joy in me. And so I just want to encourage anyone that is excited about urban farming, starting to grow food in your backyard or front yard, on your patio, your balcony, like wherever you can stick a pot with some soil and water it a few times, you know, so you and your family can eat, I mean, the freshest, most tasteful, I mean, just juicy, yummy produce that you've ever tasted in your entire life, that you can do that. And so thank you all so much for watching. It's good to see everyone. I'll be back soon. I have lots to share, lots and lots and lots to share, but till then, I will see you all next time. Thank you all, and I hope that everyone is doing well and staying healthy. As the seasons change right now, gardeners and farmers, it's time to work. It's time to put in that work so we can prepare and get ready for next season. So I encourage you all to do as much as you can, as much work as you can, clearing out those beds, you know, getting your water systems figured out, maybe planning for those, not necessarily installing them. How are you going to put in more rain barrels, your drip irrigation, or whatever it is that you're thinking about doing to expand, grow, enhance your gardening experience, your farming experience. And for next season, I encourage you to start thinking about that now. Buy your seeds now. Don't wait till January or February. Everybody's doing it then. Start buying all of your stuff now, that you can get your hands on, because it starts to run out really, really fast when we hit the months of February, March, and April of next year. So don't wait till then. Start now. It's September. It's the end of September. October, November. I encourage you all to go ahead and start purchasing your supplies now. Whatever it is, seeds, soil, fabric to lay on your the plastic, or whatever it is that you're using. Buy it now. But okay, until next time. See y'all later.